What do these situations have in common? In prehistoric forager societies, we shared food and resources, working together to ensure that everyone was cared for. In the Indus Valley civilization, we built cities that featured shared water systems and communal granaries to ensure the welfare of the entire society. During colonial rule in the Caribbean, in the face of overwhelming oppression, we fled into the mountains and jungles to form self-sustaining communities engaged in mutual aid and defense, proving that human bonds are stronger than the chains of slavery. At the height of the trade union struggle in the 20th century, we came together as workers in solidarity to sustain our strikes for better conditions. In the aftermath of hurricanes, strangers shared food, took people into their homes, and helped rebuild in the absence of official aid. Where systems of power fail, it is mutuality, neighbors helping neighbors, that holds communities together. Today and every day, most people engage in acts of mutual aid and cooperation without hierarchy, living essentially by the maxim of from each according to their abilities to each according to their needs. During the height of the pandemic, thousands of grassroots mutual aid groups emerged worldwide to share groceries and medications with those in need in their communities. These were not top-down initiatives, but spontaneous acts of solidarity. Throughout history, across political and economic systems, and across continents, the principle of mutuality manifests in our social relations. Mutuality is a feeling, an action, and a relationship based on shared benefit between individuals and groups in a society. It materializes in many, many ways, and is arguably a universal constant of our human nature. We rely on mutuality to survive and progress through our day-to-day life. Whether we're asking someone to pass the salt at the dinner table, troubleshooting a problem in the workplace, or sharing resources following a natural disaster, mutuality happens constantly, informally, and often without recognition. In Debt, the First 5,000 Years, American anthropologist David Graeber argued that this is the glue that holds society together. Not contracts or power, but solidarity, empathy, and the natural human inclination to care for others. In a world so divided by systems of power and profit, how often do we still find ourselves acting from a place of care? How many times do we instinctively help someone without thinking? And what does that say about our true nature? Are there obstacles to that care? Of course. Various prejudices, propagandized mindsets, socioeconomic systems, and material conditions limit our practice of mutuality. Life under capitalism and the state has certainly shaped the boundaries we place in our mutuality and our ability to imagine its capacity to underlie the functioning of society. But the point remains that, as American anthropologist James C. Scott understood, mutuality is ubiquitous. Historically, most communities functioned largely thanks to informal, transient networks of coordination without hierarchy, not top-down directives by the powers that be. Far from being a speculative vision of a future society, said anarchist Colin Ward, mutuality is a description of a mode of human experience of everyday life, which operates side by side with and in spite of the dominant authoritarian trends of our society. Thus, if mutuality is widely understood to be an essential component of social success in a variety of contexts, then we can speculate about how it may manifest and flourish in anarchy. If you're unfamiliar with anarchy in the context of political philosophy, you can check my video on the subject or read any of these books. But in short, anarchy is many things: an ongoing practice, a rejection of hierarchical authority and its dogmas, a strive for autonomy and free association, a framework for problem solving, and an effort to create alternatives. Think of all the times you felt powerless, at work, at school, under unjust laws, or within systems you cannot change. What would it mean to live without that weight, where your decisions are truly your own, where you're free to associate and disassociate, where you're free to move unencumbered by borders, and where you're free to enjoy the bounty of our planet held in common? The practice of anarchy is a way to create such a society, where no one stands above another, where our lives are built on cooperation instead of domination. Anarchy seeks to reshape how we practice mutuality by building new habits of cooperation that work without rulers. That's what social revolution is all about: an ongoing and intentional transformation of our society, economy, culture, philosophy, technology, relationships, and politics. This social revolution has no prescribed end goal beyond the ongoing negation of all forms of authoritarianism and prejudice and affirmation of freely associating equals. It will not be easy, But this transformation is necessary to unshackle our mutuality from the binds of hierarchy and create an anarchic society where it can flourish. As Scott argues in Two Chairs for Anarchism, the existence, power, and reach of the nation-state over the centuries may have undermined the self-organizing capacity and hence resilience of individuals and small communities. Anarchy may feel impossible to us now because many functions were once accomplished by mutuality among equals and informal coordination are now state-organized or state-supervised. So we've gotten rusty in our practice of freedom and unaccustomed to the full breadth of possibilities implied by a mutuality. The state arguably destroys the natural initiative and responsibility that arise from voluntary cooperation. 2 centuries of a strong state and liberal economies may have socialized us so we have largely lost the habits of mutuality and are in danger now of becoming precisely the dangerous predators that Hobbes thought populated the state of nature. Leviathan may have given birth to its own justification. The process of social revolution is, in many ways, a reconstitution of our natural initiative, capacity for mutuality, and responsibility for ourselves and each other through free association and cooperation. In a hierarchical society, our mutual interdependence still compels us to cooperate, but according to the limits of said hierarchy. In anarchy, our mutual interdependence is ungoverned by authority and instead guided by complementarity, meaning that we are all approached and appreciated as unique equals, cooperating on that basis. Picture a community garden. Some grow the food, others build the compost system, while others teach children how to plant. Each contributes in their own way, and the garden thrives. Our resulting interactions may seem chaotic and illegible to authority, but it is through that seeming chaos that vastly complex, horizontal, and resilient practices of learning, cooperation, and reciprocity have historically arisen. Through free association, people will find those of mutual interests in every sphere of life to form groups on the basis of their affinity. But whether these various groups meet and coordinate their activity in workshops, gardens, or other spaces of encounter, and whether they're invested in maintaining energy systems, growing food forests, or building homes, such a society cannot last without mutual responsibility. Are we truly ready to take responsibility for our own actions and the well-being of our communities? Anarchy asks for greater responsibility from each of us, as we cannot simply outsource the resolution of conflict to the jackboots. Of course, that means we can't just call the police on our neighbors' loud music. Instead, we have to actually talk to them and find a way to resolve the issue. In the absence of legal order as dictated by a state, where nothing is permitted and nothing is prohibited, each act is subject to a potentially unlimited range of responses. Escalating conflict can threaten the stability of the entire society, so it is in all of our interests to minimize the potential harm of our actions upon others and proactively seek out solutions to both potential and actual conflict. This might be called mutual defense. People will necessarily formulate norms of behavior, a mutual understanding that will guide the interactions between individuals and groups, facilitate consultation and negotiation, restrain the escalation of conflict, and maintain the viability of shared commons and libraries of things. The outcome is not necessarily perfect agreement, but at the very least, peaceful coexistence. Mutual aid is another vital component in the success of anarchy. Though commonly confused with charity, as a manifestation of mutuality, mutual aid refers to our voluntary and mutually beneficial exchange of services and resources in a society. It's not about tit-for-tat payback or measuring each person's contributions, though. If I helped you move apartments, a couple slices of pizza in return would suffice. Mutual aid involves taking responsibility for one another as members of society and building social relations that sharpen our ability to collaborate and share. This might involve cooking for others, coordinating childcare duties, providing emotional support, or sharing the products of your labor. To paraphrase anarchist Peter Kropotkin, practicing mutual aid is the surest means for giving each other and to all the greatest safety, the best guarantee of existence and progress, bodily, intellectually, and morally. It can be difficult to imagine the possibility of anarchy due to how thorough our disempowerment and domestication has been over the past few centuries. Nowadays, we live under a global order that seems to deny any alternatives and extol its understanding of human nature as the only valid interpretation. The propaganda of our education system, our mass media, and our inherited understanding as subjects in a hierarchical society has limited our consciousness of our situation, and thus our drives and powers to transform our situation. Some among us are able to overcome this conditioning through theoretical and historical study, but others can only overcome this conditioning through demonstration. Some are simply unconvinced by intellectual arguments. They must be transformed through their experiences. To borrow the terminology of innovation adoption, it is up to us early adopters, those of us into the revolution before it becomes cool, to convince the majority of the possibility of freedom by example. Social revolution through acts of confrontation, non-cooperation, and prefiguration will help to establish the conditions that will bring more into the fold. The experience of a free-flowing space of encounter, a library of things, a rent strike, a campus occupation, or guerrilla reclamation of the streets might have a much greater impact on our ability to conceptualize mutuality than any video essay or theoretical tome. This revolution is not some distant ideal. It starts with each of us right now. The power to transform society lies in our hands, in the choices we make every day to cooperate, to care, to challenge systems of oppression. Ask yourself, what can I do right now to bring mutuality into my community? How will I contribute to the social revolution? Not in some far future, but today. All power to all the people. Peace. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share with your fellow peoples. Thanks to the seedlings, the saplings, and especially the roots for making all of this possible, including our newest members, Elder Vault, and Charlotte Guzman. You can join these beautiful humans and support me too on patreon.com/sainttrue. Check out my other videos for a range of radical topics. Thanks again. Peace.